am, and I have been thinking for a long time to come live and speak to you all. And there are a couple of messages that I wanted to give in this live or discuss about, and it is in the title also. So, we are going to talk about gratitude, groundedness, and detachment today. And I think all three feelings or all three zones to be in are amazing zones. So I believe a lot in universal signs and messages, all of that, okay? So if I'm hearing something repeatedly, I know that I have to take this thing very, very seriously. And it happens out of nowhere. For example, I spoke to one of my mentors or one of my senior coaches after a very long time. We were not so much in touch. But when we spoke, what came along, and alongside him was also another person who knows tarot and who knows so many other things. And we were just having fun. They were just trying to decode my personality and how I am and all of that. And they said in a very important thing that, Rutuja, you don't acknowledge or celebrate your progress as much. Okay. And I said, no, I do appreciate myself. I do get happy and all of that. But I very quickly move from that place to, you know, to the next goal that I have in front of me, right? And I want to do that because I am a person thinks about long term things, and whatever I have in my mind as the place where I want to ultimately be, maybe I'm not there right now, so I have to move towards my next goal and not be too much into this. So naturally I'll be looking into the future. I'm going to look at towards the next step. This is so natural, right? And they also said, yeah, that's natural. At the same time, it's also very important to celebrate where you are and what you have done to come here, because some version of you wanted to be here wherever you are, whatever you are doing, or there's someone out there in the world who wants to be where you are. Okay, so this moment definitely deserves gratitude. And yeah, I took that advice. I understood what they were trying to say, and then I moved to just watching videos. And then again, one of the person that I consider as mentor spoke again about gratitude. And I'm not just talking about gratitude of just writing things that you have in your life materially or spiritually, whatever, but that deep sense of knowing how supported and guided you are. And when I really look back at my life, I see that I get right things at the same right time. I get right advice at the right time by people. I feel supported by my mentors a lot. I get some kind of right knowledge from a particular place. And that timing of getting that knowledge, or being open to that knowledge, I feel very grateful about that thing right now. And that's the second sign of gratitude. And the third sign of gratitude was today when I was watching this web series called The Maid. Okay, so The Maid is a web series on Netflix. And what happens in that is there is a very young woman in her early 20s, and she leaves her partner midnight, and she takes her child and goes and is trying to create a life for her child. So she's not that educated, she does not have a lot of skills to go ahead and do like a well qualified job. So she takes up a cleaning job, and the hardships of building, trying to build that life and trying to meet the expectations. So working hand to mouth, that you are eating from what you're earning. That struggle is shown in that movie. And throughout these struggles, it's not only the struggle of money that the woman is trying to make, it's also the struggle of where is she going to stay. And she trying to break so many cycles of emotional abuse and so many different kinds of abuse. So there is generational trauma also that's been shown in that web series. And along that way, she also contributes to people who are suffering. So she herself does not have a lot of resources. She's trying very hard to find that resources for herself. But she is in a position where, she maybe finds out journaling prompt for women who are suffering like her. and tries to facilitate and deliver group therapy sessions with them. So she's warmly holding that space. So she's contributing. Even if she herself is suffering, she's contributing. And also, she, takes support from people who can support her or who come forward to support her. And she also learns to ask for what is hers, to deserve what is hers, to get angry when something unfair happens to her, and say that, I want this or I demand this. So you see the beautiful evolution of this woman into the person that she always wanted to become. So from being very, very powerless to being somebody who actually, moves out of that town and finds herself in a great place, is something to learn from this movie. And this movie gives a lot, not a movie, a web series, and this web series gives a lot of hope that there is light at the end of the tunnel. So अगर आप कोई हो जो बहुत मेहनत कर रहे हो और दिन रात आप मेहनत करते हो, बहुत चीज़ें करते हो ताकि आप अपने आप को और अपने फैमिली को या अपने जो भी आपके रिश्तेदार हैं उनको एक अच्छी ज़िंदगी दे सको, तो वो दिन आता है जहाँ पर आपके पास वो सारी चीज़ें होती है और आप लोगों को वो प्रोवाइड कर सकते हो, और जो खुशी आपने चाही थी ज़िंदगी से वो आपको मिलती ही है। ऐसा कभी नहीं होगा कि वो चीज़ें आपको नहीं मिलेंगी। शायद आपको कभी कभी लगेगा दैट आई शुड गिव अप, मेरा तो कुछ हो ही नहीं सकता, दिस इज़ द प्लेस दैट आई वॉन्ट टू, आई हैव टू एक्सेप्ट एज द परमानेंट जेल. The place will only become a jail if you decide to stay in it. But if you put, आप हाथ पैर मारने लगते हो कि मुझे तो कुछ करना ही है and I have to get out of here, you get out of there. And I'm not just saying this watching movies, but also knowing a lot of real life stories where man, woman, any person who has wanted to come out of a terrible state or a state of victimhood to being a creator of life, that happens. And that work can feel overwhelming कि अरे इतनी मेहनत करनी पड़ती है, क्या इतना मैं कर पाऊँगी या कर पाऊँ? ऑफ कोर्स, अगर आपको वो चाहिए तो वो क्वेश्चन आपको ये नहीं पूछना कि क्या मैं कर पाऊँगा या मैं कर पाऊँगी या नहीं. द क्वेश्चन इज़ कि क्या करना होगा, एंड देन यू गो हैड एंड डू इट. दैट इज़ द स्पिरिट दैट टेक्स यू फॉरवर्ड इन लाइफ. एंड इतने सारे लोगों की कहानियाँ सुन के, इतने सारे सेशंस डिलीवर करके, मैंने ये हमेशा देखा है, पता है. जो लोग, मतलब इसमें बहुत सारी सफरिंग फील होती है, बट इट इज़ बेटर देन स्टेइंग इन द प्लेस ऑफ हेल्पलेसनेस. हेल्पलेसनेस मतलब कि अरे अब यही ज़िंदगी है, ऐसे ही जीना होगा, ऐसे ही तो जीते हैं, कितने सारे लोग ऐसे ही जीते आए हैं. सो ये सारे जो वर्ड्स हैं ना, या ये सारे जो स्टेटमेंट्स हैं, ये बहुत हेल्पलेस स्टेटमेंट्स हैं. और ये आपकी एंजाइटी को, आपके सारे जो ख़राब ट्रबल्ड इमोशंस हैं, इसको बढ़ाने का ही काम करते हैं. तो इट्स बेटर दैट यू वर्क हार्ड, you believe in this, you believe not in the lines of your hands, but you believe in the hard work of your hands, and you do it. And you see your life changes. Your life definitely changes. Or that when you see yourself as the creator of your own life, and when you see yourself in power, it's very less likely that you'll get back into the place of powerlessness again permanently कभी भी नहीं जाओगे. कभी कभी आपके बैड डेज होंगे, ओके, where you would want to go permanently over there, but हमेशा के लिए तो कभी नहीं जाओगे, टेम्पररी जाओगे जब भी जाओगे. At what age you decided to become a life coach? What is that point you have decided? Okay, Chandrasekhar. So when I was 21, I decided that I wanted to do something with my communication skills. I don't know, it was called life coaching. So 21 years ki thi ya 22, I don't remember. But I started uploading videos on YouTube. And then I was going just as a guest to colleges and helping students learn different interview skills and all of that. And then I got to know about the field of coaching. So almost from the age of 22, 21 to the age of 23 and a half, I was learning and practicing like demo coaching sessions. So I was polishing my skills as a life coach. But full-time coaching as a career, it has happened almost like 2 years ago. Okay, so this was my whole body of work. Okay, so the decision that this is something that I really want to do, that came on very early. That instant comes, no, that gut feeling, it came on very early. It came on when I was 22 and a half maybe. But the implementation of it, I did it very gradually. Okay, first I let my skills polish very well before I quit my job. I saw how the market is, what's really happening, and practically how does that translate. And only after that, only after I had built certain authority on social media, I decided to quit my full-time job and then become a full-time life coach. So that's the point, and I'm so grateful that I did it, as we are talking about gratitude. So we are done talking about gratitude, and this is one thing that I'm very, very grateful about, is the guidance, timing, teachers, and everything that I receive in my life at the right time. And even after receiving at that age, you know, I would think that, oh my god, I'm so late. I understood this so late that I wanted to become a life coach. And then there are people of all ages asking me this question, that is this the right time? Is this the right age? And there were some people like, what? You are 23 and a life coach? Aren't you too young to be a life coach? And I didn't doubt myself, because I know coaching does not mean that I'm going to sit and give you all the answers. Okay, I have coached people double my age, so it's not about giving answers but being that very reflective presence. And if I know something about that particular area that you are asking me, I would give you the answers at the end of the session. But I'm not somebody who's going to give you advice, a lot of advice. Okay, so only when somebody has, the expertise in that field. For example, somebody asks me about engineering, social work, asks me about leadership, asks me about soft skills, productivity, I can give advice. But if somebody asks me anything about cybersecurity, I can't, right? So, or if anything, people ask me, whether people reflect on these questions, like, do they want to have a child or not at this point in their life? So if I was to give them an advice, I have not had a child myself, right? So I help them reflect. And it's always better to reflect with people, and they do come to an answer. So it's not about the age. It's not, there's no right time, okay, of becoming a life coach. And I feel that if it comes to you, and as I said, if you're ready to put the hard work, then now is the time. Okay, so there's a very wonderful thing that came into my realization yesterday, that once you look at the world outside of you, without your emotional blocks, without your fears, without your limiting filters and all of that, you find a lot of opportunities. I never labeled myself as too young, too old, whatever, to become a life coach. I loved this field. I had a lot of curiosity for it. I loved to study people, analyze people, their behaviors, why they do what they do. So it was such a strong pull that no logical argument could actually resist it. And whatever logically had to be concluded to make that move practically, I did it. That part I did use my logic. But I think the professions, which serve a larger purpose of your life, I feel they have a very strong pull. You cannot stop yourself even if you try to. So that's one of the ways to know if something is really meant for you or not. And even if it's meant for you, you will have to put in the work to become a coach. So there are a number of hours that you have to do to actually feel like, yeah, I'm creating results for people and all of that. So skill building and polishing your skills, building your authority on social media, all of this takes its own time. And if you're ready to give that hard work and have that patience, I feel, yeah, at any age you're good to coach, as it is more about the skill. So we spoke about gratitude. Now let's talk about groundedness. One of my favorite authors, Elizabeth Gilbert, she has written her new book, and she is doing her promotions of that book. And she was saying that I don't know how people allowed me to travel the world without groundedness. She's somebody who's traveled the world literally, and she writes beautifully. And she was saying in this reel that I don't know how I allowed to move in the world without being grounded. And I get it. I get what she's trying to say, because I think most of my teenage I have also been very anxious, panicky, and if something happens, you remember that story of a rabbit, and that there's a leaf that falls on the rabbit's head, and the rabbit says that there is a thunderstorm, it's an earthquake, and the rabbit starts to run and panics everybody else around them. So I have felt like that rabbit, especially in my teenage and more so in my childhood. And I used to feel nervous very easily. More than, anxiousness was never a negative thing for me. Most of the time it was very positive. And it made me do a lot of things like, participate in elocution, participate in art activities, participate in geography exhibition. So it served me positively mostly. Sometimes it became, where I'm becoming very very I'm overthinking, I'm panicking, I'm going in all sorts of directions, all of that. So that's something that it did to me. And as I have started to be very honest with myself, that is some time from college, okay, before I stepped into the profession of coaching, when I was taking up the IT job, because I don't know what I really wanted to do, but I knew one thing after college, that social activities, when I did it very well. I was able to manage people very well as the chairperson. So you can see the logo. Yeah, I love the jacket so much from the college time that I've not discarded these things. So I was very connected to all of these activities. So that's where I saw that my people skills were good. And I started to ground myself into that truth that I'm seeing about myself. So as life starts to unfold, also we start to see a lot of truths about ourselves, and we need to slowly start to accept those truths that life is revealing to us about ourselves. For example, one of the truths was that I'm a person who likes to have very, very strong boundaries. I like to be assertive. I like to say that, hey, I can do this, but I can't do that. Or I want to take rest right now, so I'm not going to do more work. So this is something that I wanted to say, but in my mind there was a voice of guilt, that how do I set a boundary and all of that. But slowly, as I got into this profession, I also started to again ground myself into that truth, that yes, I want to function with boundaries on, and I don't want to carry the guilt because I'm not doing something wrong. So all of these things, they start to ground you. Okay, the truths that are revealed. And one of the things that I always say, that one of the best things to discover yourself is to start speaking honestly to yourself. Okay, really really truthful. You may not be able to be truthful with the whole world, but know that speak 100% truth to your own self. It's very very important. It changes your life. This is a simple technique that changes your life for good. And then what grounds you is, anything that helps you to connect with your inner self or your higher power. So when I say higher power, it can be God that you believe in, it can be anything, universe, something higher than you. Or if you don't believe in anything, don't believe in God, you are not a believer, just you can just close your eyes and just get your attention inward, and that grounds you a lot. For example, when I was in college and I was making a couple of decisions for the SWD committee that I was the chairperson for, and what happens with that, when you are at the absolute top, like when I was the chairperson, you don't know how to validate your decision before you see the result, right? So maybe I know somewhere that what I'm doing is right, but I was quite young for my age. So whenever I used to feel like I need some guidance and I don't know that what I'm doing is right or not, I would really take a pen and paper and say that, higher self, please guide me. And then I would start writing as my higher self. And I would start writing so fast, it didn't feel like I am writing it. And then I used to feel like, yeah, this is the guidance that my inner self or my soul is giving me. And that's how that, strengthens. So whenever I feel ungrounded, the first thing is I take my pen, I sit over there, I ask my higher self to give me guidance, and I start writing to myself, dear Rutuja, and then I start writing, and I start to get a lot of guidance in that flow. So that flow itself, becomes very important. Vishal is saying it's only consciousness which bridge between us and God. Okay. So maybe someday we'll talk about consciousness and things and all of those like that. I actually love these things. I love these discussions. So we can on lives and all of that. So this was about groundedness. That if you have a practice that grounds you. So in our culture, the prayers that you do, no matter which religion you belong to, all of those things are very very grounding as well. But for me, more I love to pray as well. But more than that, what works for me is writing, and that I feel is a very grounding practice. So for some people, it can just be taking a walk, and a lot of times for me, that grounding practice can also be roaming around on my terrace just under the empty sky. I remember that the grounding practice for me during the COVID times was just lying down on the terrace and looking at the empty sky. That also feels very, very meditative. So all of these kind of practices that calm down your nervous system are very, very important practices. They say that teaching somebody to regulate their emotions is preventing a lot of damage that people do to each other. So, our primary responsibility is taking care of this, of ourselves. And this does not make you selfish. In fact, why am I such an individualistic person? Is that I believe that if individuals are strong, the groups are strong. Okay, so if I am taking care of my emotional regulation and I'm taking care of my boundaries and space and all of that, I can serve you better as a person. Otherwise, I can maybe, going all cranky over you that you are not according to me and I am not according to you, and we're going on and on and on with conflicts. So that happens when, we are not grounded and our nervous system is not in that great position. So this was about groundedness. And then comes the final thing that I wanted to talk about, and this has become like a very long lecture, but I wanted to talk about it, that is detachment. Now, detachment is not a practice for that matter, but an end result. But how do you create that end result, right? Because we all have desires, and it's not bad to have desires. People who say that desires are the root cause of suffering, no, desires are not the root cause of suffering. But clinging on to them so tight that only if this happens, my life is amazing, or it is not, when you make this condition and this equation in your mind, that is the time when it becomes a suffering, because now it has to happen your way for you to feel safe, or for you to feel happy, or for you to feel satisfied. So that is the root of suffering. Okay, so one of my favorite spiritual teachers, Paramhans Yoganand, says that you have desires, but hold them with lightness and hold them loosely. Does that mean you stop working towards them? No. Does that mean if I have a desire that I have to reach a certain number of subscribers on YouTube? Okay, and if I'm holding it loosely and I show up with my full long form videos, I show up live and all of that, I can enjoy being over here and interacting with you all guys. Otherwise, what I'm going to do if I cling on to that 5,000 number very, very, strictly, is that I'm going to keep check, how many subscribers did I get, how many people subscribe to my channel, and all of my energy is going to go into that. Okay, and that's nothing but seeking external validation for the content I make or for the things that I say. But the original intention with which I created all these social media channels were that whatever flow of ideas and teachings and experiences, reflections go continuously inside of my system, I wanted to share with other people who are also on similar journeys. And I wanted to give a very strong message that authenticity is more important than perfection, and the journey demanded my authenticity at each and every stage. So I was, I experienced the lesson that I was teaching, and I wanted to teach. And there are so many researches and studies, and also a lot of people who are in self help or are metaphysical teachers are saying that today's world needs more authenticity than perfection. Okay, otherwise we are going to just live in a bunch of robotic people who are just perfect, and that's so boring. So that's there. And yesterday I read a very beautiful quote, and I pinned it on my wall, by the way. The quote says, too many people think perfect is the enemy of good. The rich know perfect is the enemy of rich. Okay, so this was about execution and implementation. And when this author was talking about execution, she was telling how the people who stay poor are the ones who go into researching about the implementation for more than a year. Okay, and the people who are implementing it in 72 hours or a week, and they're taking a feedback from that, learning and having these cycles of iterations where they're correcting it. Okay, that is the time when they are able to absolutely master something. And this was again then validated by what I was hearing from Naval Ravikant, who's again a very rich person who is a very successful investor. And he also talks about these cycles of iterations that you implement, you learn, and you correct, and then you implement again. So he says that we don't need 10,000 hours to master something actually, but 10,000 iterations where you're correcting one small thing in each and every iteration. So it's up to you. Do you want to do those iterations faster or slower? It's up to you. So from detachment we have come to iterations of making something, perfect. So all of these things are there. Okay, so detachment is about holding these things with lightness, because it's very important that there is space for life spontaneity to take over. Okay, so we all like structure in our life, we all like certainty, we all like that at the end of the month this much amount of money is coming to my bank as a salary, or as the profits of my business, whatever it is. We like that certainty. But it is so important for us to be alive that we also experience spontaneity. That let's say that I have an idea, I want to talk about it. Okay, and right now I'm able to just switch on my camera and come live and talk about these three ideas, okay, to you guys. And if right now I was working in a company, I would not be able to just switch it on and come over here, because I would be attending some stand up call at this time. So the ratio of how much a person wants structure, certainty, and how much of spontaneity changes from person to person, and also the phase of life. Okay, so people who are dependent on you, what all things are there in your life, it all varies. So it's not like a general advice, but there has to be some space for life spontaneity to take over. Okay, and that's how you also enjoy the waves of life. So, detachment helps you to do that. Detachment helps you to be blissful about it. And as I said, that you hold these desires loosely, and whatever higher power you're talking to, or if you get up every single morning and you spend some time talking to this inner voice of you, or you are just being present with your inner silence. The worst days that I have are when I'm just getting up, because of some phone call or something, and I'm just getting into life's activities, because I'm not that person who gets up like with a lot of energy or something like that. I want to sit quietly for 10-15 minutes after I have woken up. And if I get those 10-15 minutes, I have an amazing day ahead. I feel like I can take on any challenge in the world. And it's not for no reason. There's a reason behind it, that I want to tune into myself and tune into my inner silence before I tune into the external voice. And this small 10-15 minutes gap that I get, it is so inspiring, it is so motivating, and it so connects you to the life force that you are able to experience it outside. And this also helps you to stay a little detached. Okay, so detachment is one of the most beautiful things that you can experience. And no, you don't become boring, you don't become antisocial because you are detached. No, you are able to just laugh at life. You're able to laugh at things that are happening. You're able to see the silliness. And so, see you in the next live. Subscribe to the channel if you liked what you see. Bye bye for now.